Like I said, that's one of the mistakes I remember doing when I was out here job hunting. So I had a CCNA. I thought I was the top dog. I was applying for a senior engineer. I saw senior architect. I applied. I ain't get no call back, but I applied. So welcome to Debt Free in IT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested. I think you come to the right place. So today's episode comes from a listener's question. So their question was that they just passed the CCNA, was a real struggle. They have the certificate in hand, but no experience. Any advice on which jobs they should go for as in an entry-level position to get into this industry? So first off, I'd like to say congratulations on obtaining your CCNA certification. We all know the time and the dedication, the discipline that goes into studying for this type of certification. So congratulations on obtaining your CCNA. And then going forward, there's a couple ways that we can tackle this question, but I want to try to give you a roadmap that I think will help you out in the long run. So pretty much we're going to start with where you should look for these entry-level roles at. Then once you figure out where we're going to start searching for these roles, then we're going to go into what roles we should actually be trying to target to get our foot in the door and get this first entry-level position or get your first networking position. And then last, we're going to look at getting your resume together to start applying for these roles. So first, I would like to start with where should we be looking at for these entry-level networking roles? So the first thing that comes to my mind is, of course, the job boards. So with the job boards, this is where I'm referring to sites like Indeed, LinkedIn, and Dice. Those are my big three job boards whenever I'm cruising around in these job streets or whenever I'm job hunting. I always revert back to those three. So usually, like I said, Indeed is pretty good. I had a lot of luck on Indeed. One thing that's, I think, a good feature with Indeed is that a recruiter is able to find your resume, your information on Indeed and message you through Indeed. But then also when we look at a website like LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is real valuable too. All depends on how you use it. So with LinkedIn, one neat feature I like about it is that sometimes whoever posts the job, because they have a job feature on LinkedIn, whoever posts that job, a lot of times it shows their profile. So with that being said, you can add that person as a friend or follow them, and then maybe you can gradually, inbox them, let them know that you saw this position is available and want to know if you could send them your resume or let them know that you applied to that position. You don't want to be overbearing where you're kind of trying to force them to look at your resume or anything like that. But, you kind of want to be cordial with it. You want to just build up a good rapport. But I think this is one thing that LinkedIn allows you to do because you are able to see whoever posts up a job. Sometimes you'll notice that the person that posts a job may be a recruiter. There's a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn. It is possible to get hit up on LinkedIn by recruiters because a lot of times if recruiters, they're searching for a certain position, a lot of times they know what certifications that position may be calling for or that certification may be listed in the job description. So inside of LinkedIn, you got advanced features that you can pay for, especially on the recruitment side where they can search a broad area and say, okay, show me who all has a CCNA certification. So if you have that certification on your profile and you're in that area, 9 times out of 10, your profile is going to pull up for that recruiter. So then they can go down and kind of carve out whoever they want to message or whoever they want to connect with. But LinkedIn, I think, is a gold mine from that aspect, being that you can network on LinkedIn. Then also just posting on LinkedIn. You get to where, you're doing networking projects or you're doing some studying that pertains to the CCNA. Just post up what you're doing. A lot of people call it practice in public. You just show up, different labs you're doing, things like that, start posting it. And then that way, a lot of recruiters will put their eyes on you. And a lot of times someone may see you and recommend you just because they start seeing your stuff popping up on LinkedIn all the time. So like I said, Indeed and LinkedIn. And then we get to Dice. So Dice is probably the most tech focused site out of the three. So like I said, Dice is IT focused mainly. It has a lot of different positions on there also. for Dice, like I said, I have some friends that, they swear by Dice. Anytime they're looking for a new position, they're going to Dice to get their new position or to start looking to seeing what's available. So within these big three, I think you'll have a good opportunity to see what's out there and possibly start landing some interviews, get those reps in to where you're getting comfortable, then hopefully land your first entry-level role. And then the last thing on this list is that under the job board list would be Glassdoor. So Glassdoor, you can't really search for jobs on there, but what Glassdoor comes in handy is if I'm about to put in an application at a organization, I can look on Glassdoor and see what others say about that organization. So that's real good because I'm able to see that if the position I'm applying for, if someone from that position has left a review or anything about that job, I can go in and kind of see a little bit of what I'm about to get into. So that could either sway you towards that job or sway you away from it. But I think Glassdoor is a good tool. Sometimes Glassdoor may ask for a fee, or sometimes I think they let you use it free long as you leave a review on a job that you was currently at or a job that you used to work at. So like I said, with Glassdoor, I think it's a good tool to use also. The next place that we're going to look for are entry-level networking roles. This is going to be our IT staffing and recruitment agencies. So I think a lot of people sleep on these agencies here. Like I said, I didn't know they existed until I first started my job hunt after I obtained my CCNA. But some of the big ones that we can name here is Robert Half, Tech Systems, Apex Systems, Insight Global. So most of those are recruitment agencies. And pretty much what they do is, they hire recruiters. And basically, those recruiters get job orders. Let's say a recruiter get a job order for a network engineer or a network administrator. Then it's that recruiter's job to go out and find the best fit for that position. So a lot of times you can find jobs on these recruitment agencies' website. So they all have websites and they all have a jobs category on their website. So you can go there and see directly what jobs they have in your area. It even shows you how to apply. But then also what a lot of them do is you'll see as you start looking through LinkedIn, Dice, and things like that, you'll see some of the listings that says it was listed by one of these recruitment companies. So like I said, these recruitment companies, I think it provides a good opportunity, especially for someone, let's say you don't mind traveling. You don't mind traveling. Let's say that you're a single person. You may not have a lot of responsibility right now. So if this is you, a lot of times I think the unique aspect is if I could rewind time, this might have been the way I would have tried to go also, is that a lot of time with these recruitment agencies. So if they send you on a position, let's say that position may be a contract role that may be 6 months. So usually as you're working in that position for 6 months, let's say you're working a network technician role for 6 months. You're doing this for 6 months. After that 6 months is up, a lot of times that recruitment company will try to have you another job or another contract to go to, which may be another 6 months or it may be another year. But let's say once you go there, you're now working as a network administrator. So you're working as a network administrator. So within a year, you done held a position in one environment as a network technician, in another environment as a network administrator. So I think the beauty of some of these staffing and recruitment agencies, especially if you're younger, you're not looking for somewhere where, you want to stay forever. But the beauty with these that I like is you're able to see a lot of different environments in a short amount of time. So whereas if you take my experience was mostly at a hospital where I stayed there roughly about 10 years. Now, in a hospital environment, you do see a lot of different things, and sometimes the structure of your different departments is a little bit different from most places to where you get a chance to put your hands on a lot of stuff. I did get a chance to put my hands on a lot of stuff. I was, involved in a lot of different little projects and things like that. But I did 10 years in one environment. So, yes, I learned that environment pretty well, but just think of from a experience standpoint that if I would have went to Robert Half first for 6 months, then I would have went to another position for Robert Half for a year. Then I would have went to another position for Robert Half for 6 months or something like that. So in 10 years, I would have had buku. Well, in 10 years, you might not want to be with a recruitment company for 10 years, but as you can see, within 2 to 3 years, I done been in 3 different environments and learned those environments and learned how they do things. And then also, around the time you're going to these different environments, you're going to meet a lot of people that may be better than you, because as you come into those positions, you're going to be on teams with engineers and architects. So the beauty of that is you can now learn from them. You take some of their skill sets, you add it to your tool belt. It helps you out along the way. That way you're leveling up at each one of these positions you're going to. And then when you finally say, okay, I want to find that home where I can stay here for a couple of years. Hopefully I can retire from here or whatever's going on. By the time you start looking for that, you already got all the experience that they're going to be asking for. So like I said, the second thing is IT staffing companies and these recruitment agencies. Like I said, these are highly recommended, especially if you can afford to jump around to different positions like this. And then the third place to look for these entry-level networking roles, I would say, is the company's website. So look around in your area, think about what companies is out there. A lot of companies need IT support, so there should be a lot of availability, especially if you're in a large city or something like that. But look around at the different organizations that's around you. So think of healthcare organizations, look at universities, maybe community colleges, look at the government jobs website for your county, things like that. So a lot of times these places may put the job on their website before they put it on a site like Indeed or Dice. So it's always good to have a list of different companies that you go directly to their website and see what jobs they have available. So by doing this, like I said, some places, they put them on the website first. So this way, you may not have a lot of competition because it ain't on a large site like Indeed that's getting a lot of traffic and things like that. But a lot of times, like I said, this is where you can find some gems like the healthcare. I want to say that's probably how I got into healthcare. I looked up directly on their website. So like I said, just going directly to that job's website. And then when you're thinking about the different companies, look at different tech companies in your area, your local ISP. Let's say if you got a local or small ISP that may be local to just that town, those will be good places to get in, learn the ropes, get your feet wet, get your experience, and then start to grow throughout your career. So it's possible to find a lot of entry-level roles. And like I said, look at the universities, look at the hospitals, look at the community colleges, look at the government jobs in your area, different tech companies, and the small ISPs. So now that we got a list of where we're going to start looking at for these entry-level roles, next we're going to start looking at what roles are we going to be looking for. So one of the first categories within this is your general IT jobs. So your general IT jobs, those are going to be your help desk jobs, your IT support jobs, your technical support jobs. You may also hear this called desktop support, and also your field technician may fall up in here. So usually this is that general IT job. So a lot of times these are perfect for someone looking for an entry-level role, even though you have a CCNA, and that CCNA is mainly geared towards networking, but all of these positions I just named deals with networking. So everything you do in the help desk, a lot of times, not everything, but most of the stuff you're going to do, a lot of it, you're going to need that networking knowledge. So a lot of times in these positions, when there's an opening, even though you got no experience, but you got the certification, I would go ahead and apply for these positions, because a lot of times someone may give you a break the same way that someone gave me a break. So I was applying for these positions here, and someone saw my resume and saw that, oh, he don't have no experience, but he has a CCNA, so that lets me know that he's serious and he do have some computer knowledge, preferably probably more networking knowledge, but this is a good candidate for somebody to get started in this help desk role or this IT support role and then start to work their way up. So that's pretty much the same thing that happened to me. So these roles here, a lot of times, like I said, they may ask for maybe 0 to 3 years experience or 1 to 3 years experience. A lot of times I would still apply for, because some of them may say 1 to 3 years experience or equivalent education or certification. So a lot of times, like I say, being that you got the certification, I would go ahead and apply for it. Just here we're looking for this entry-level role where we can go in and get our foot in the door. And then the second type of job that we can look for is the jobs that pertain to a lot of entry-level networking roles. Some of those jobs are going to be the network technician. So network technician, this role has a vast amount of duties. It depends on the organization. Like I said, I was a technician, but I mainly worked with a lot of the engineers where, I wasn't really restricted on a lot of stuff. So in that way, it allowed me to see a lot of things and do a lot of things, where I know another person that's a network technician, and the only thing they do is rack and stack. They rack and stack, get connectivity. The next higher up network personnel remote see and configures the device. So this position, it's going to depend on the organization, if it's a large organization, if it's a small organization. So and then you got a NOC technician. So this NOC technician, this is also good for someone that just obtained their CCNA, where you can be in this network operations center, where you may have different duties that you do every night or depending on the shift that you're working. And then from there, you move on to the junior network engineer. And I say this junior network engineer is also about the same level as a network analyst or network admin. So usually if we're going from lowest on up, usually you would start with a network technician. Then that network technician would move up to a network analyst or a network admin. Some places may call it a junior network engineer because you're not a network engineer yet. So you're up under the network engineer, which is where those analysts and admin positions fall at. So with this here, this will be the perfect position that I wish for you to get, because this here gives you a jump start where you don't have to go through maybe that help desk and talking on the phones, where you can get into one of these positions, stay here for roughly a couple years, maybe 1 to 3 years. I would say at least 2, 2-3 years, get your experience up, then hopefully the organization that you land at, they allow you to progress within that organization. To that way you can move on up from a network analyst, network admin, on up to an engineer, then hopefully a senior engineer. And then we have the last position that I can think about is the data center technician. So this is also a entry-level position for someone with a CCNA that's geared mainly towards networking. So these are the positions that I think that you should hone in on in your job hunting process. So those general IT roles, as well as some of these entry-level networking roles or some of these lower-level networking roles. What you don't want to do is, with no experience or anything, you don't want to start applying for senior engineer roles, which, like I said, that's one of the mistakes I remember doing when I was out here job hunting. So I had a CCNA. I thought I was the top dog. I was applying for a senior engineer. I saw senior architect. I applied. I ain't get no call back, but I applied. So like I said, you want to stick to some of the entry-level roles, and there's a couple of other roles that I may not have mentioned, but a lot of times just look at the hierarchy. Usually that hierarchy is going to go from technician to analyst or admin, then to engineer. So I say anything technician, analyst, admin, I say all of that is fair game for you. Quick pause. I hope you're enjoying this episode. I'd like to introduce you to the Log Files. So the Log Files is a weekly newsletter to help you start your IT career with practical advice and tips, powered by yours truly. So it launched at the beginning of the year. It's packed with actionable advice, resources, and insights to help kickstart your IT journey. The link is in the description as well as pinned to the comments. So don't miss out. Now back to the episode. So the next thing we want to look at, so after we figured out where we're going to start looking for these roles at, then the roles that we're going to start looking for, the next thing is how we're going to start preparing our resume. So for me, to each his own. Now, everybody got their own way of doing their resumes. For me, I'm a firm believer of having a one-page resume, especially if you ain't got a whole lot of experience. I would say a one-page resume, my resume to this day has always been one page. I don't really believe in sending off an encyclopedia for someone to read about me. I don't want to send off something that's 10 pages for someone to read about me, because we know nowadays, most people don't like to read, so we ain't going to read too far. So I keep my resume short and sweet, one page. On this one page, I'm going to have my contact details. I'm going to make sure I got a current email. I'm going to make sure I got my name and phone number on that resume. And then you want to highlight a lot of your CCNA skills. You know, you want to highlight the CCNA by saying that you got the CCNA certification, and then also put some of the skills that you obtain from that CCNA. And then any kind of lab work you've done, you can also put that down as your experience also. So let's say maybe if you done some help on the side with some companies, or you did some freelance work, or maybe if you helped out some relatives, you know, add that experience on your resume. So like I said, highlight your CCNA skills, highlight the CCNA. And then, you know, of course, you have the other information that you put on there, such as your previous jobs. For me, I always just been a firm believer of only doing 5 years back. So if I had a couple jobs within the past 5 years, I just go 5 years back and put whatever those jobs was. Now, if they ask for more, you know, I let them know about the other ones. But for the most part, I'm just trying to keep my resume on one page. And then, you know, saying you got your highlight section, any kind of software you've worked with or you got experience with, you know, you want to put that down. The main thing we're trying to do here is usually the first person that looks at your resume is usually not a person. It's usually the applicant tracking system, so the ATS system. So this system usually is going to look for those keywords. So it's going to look for keywords that pertain to the CCNA. It's going to look for some of those words. So what we're doing is we're putting some of those keywords on our resume. You know, so you got the CCNA, so it's only right you put those keywords to help you out with that CCNA to get your resume looked at by a person. So once your resume gets looked at, and then, you know, that's when the point where you may get reached out to for an interview or schedule an online call or something of that nature. But the main thing is getting your resume together. You know what I'm saying? I usually, like I said, I'm a firm believer of the one-page resume. Get your resume together, then start shopping it out. Now, let's say you get your resume together, but it's been a month or two, you're not getting any hits from your resume. So this is where we can go to the next level of resumes where, okay, this first resume you created, you know, you're not getting any traction with it. So now if you can afford it, now I'm not saying that you have to do this, but if you can afford it, this is where you might be able to find someone that specializes in writing resumes. So the right person for this is usually, you don't want someone that's going to put a whole bunch of gibberish on your resume. That way you go in the interview and they interview and you ask you questions and you're not able to answer them. But you want someone that's going to take your resume and just word it a little bit better than you. That I reached out to someone before because, like I said, I wrote my resume, and as you can tell the way I talk, I probably can't write too good like that. So usually, like I said, I sent my resume out to a resume writer. This person, I happen to knew them. I went to school with them, but they sent it back in a good format for me to where it was able to get everything across, get everything relayed across, my skills and everything. It had everything on this one page. So then I noticed quickly, even though I didn't apply for a lot of jobs, but I noticed quickly I would get hit up by recruiters. I would get hit up on Indeed. I would get hit up on LinkedIn. So all of this is probably because the way my resume looked, and a lot of times it had those keywords for any kind of networking role or any kind of networking certification. So like I said, once you figure out where we're going to look for the jobs at, the jobs we're going to target, then we're going to get our resume right. So to finish up this episode, one other thing I want to talk about is I want to let you know that the job search does take time. So usually, I'm not saying that this is going to happen fast for you. Everyone, the timing is different for everyone. You know, it's God's plan. So for me, like you heard, if you listen to it in my previous episodes, it took me roughly 2.5 years almost before I got in at that hospital. So that was a while from when I graduated with that CCNA. Actually, when I got there, within about a couple of months, my CCNA had expired. So it will take some time, but this, I say it all depends on your location. So one of the main things when I look back and see, okay, what was the difference between me and everyone else? Everyone else that I knew that we went to school for tech, we went to school for that at the same time. What was the difference? The only difference I can boil it down to, it definitely won't that I was the smartest person in networking, so that definitely won't the reason. But the only difference I can boil it down to was that I never gave up. You know, the whole time I'm working these other jobs, I'm still applying for these IT roles. I remember working at Advanced, getting off from Advanced early to go and do an interview in Charlotte for a role. I didn't get it, but I was still applying. I was still fixing people's computer on the side. Somebody had an issue with a computer, a printer, anything tech related. I was usually the person to go and fix it. So the whole time, like I said, I'm working a regular job, a regular job to get by. But the whole time I had my mind on something bigger where I'm still applying for these tech roles. I still wanted to get in networking. So I'm steady applying. So the main thing I say is if it don't happen as fast as you would like it to, continue applying. Don't get in a predicament where you have to settle for something else and not pursue what you're trying to get to. So keep applying because eventually, so it will come across someone's desk and someone will see your resume. You will stand out and someone will say, oh, we need to get this person in here for an interview. And then you blow them away on the interview. Then they say, oh, we need to go ahead and send an offer to this person. So that will happen. I just can't say when it's going to happen. Like I said, for everyone, the journey is different. So it's not about the journey. It's about the destination. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Hopefully you found some value in this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, you can follow me at debtfreeandit. If you have any questions, you can email me at debtfreeandit@gmail.com, or you can visit me at debtfreeanditwithmike.com. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.